All right, we are live and in living color here with Darrick Garner. And hopefully we'll just wait a second and see if anybody actually shows up here.
Sounds good.
Yeah, give it a minute. Everybody probably eating dinner.
That's it. Hey, that's what I was doing earlier. Whooping down some food real fast.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Wasn't too bad. Wasn't too bad. Good old chicken this evening. So
Oh, there you
hard
go.
to beat. Yeah.
It's either eat it or you fish with it, one or the other.
That's it. That's what I was. Yeah, I was wanting to throw it out there. So that's what I was thinking. Whether you eat it or fish with it, works good either way. So. Oh shoot.
We'll give a couple minutes to see how many people got in here. We got one at least right now. So good evening, whoever you are out there.
Hello.
If you're going to have any questions tonight, please be free to share those out there. So that's what he's here for, to educate and inform people of Asian Carp itself and his product of dark water premium baits. So give at least 2 minutes here.
Sure.
So how's your fishing been so far?
Honestly,
just in general.
Not too bad. And we did a little fishing about 2 weeks ago for flathead catfish. We're using some fly bait for flatheads, and we're fishing the Salt River. That's one of the trib streams dump into the Mark Twain Lake, and did fairly well. The biggest one, a friend of mine caught it. It was about 14.5 pounds. I caught a couple 8 to 10 pounders, and again, just using live baits. We like to use a 3 swivel, keep the bait up off the bottom, fish a little bit faster water. And we had a good influx of water came in from one of the storms that we had, and fishing was good. The water was turbid, and fish around brush piles and stuff. So it worked out pretty good. Worked out good. What about you guys? How's everything been so far?
Not too bad. I've been fishing over Buckeye Lake the last couple times and been hitting the channels pretty good. Over at Hoover, not too terrible. I've gotten 3 fish out of there out of at least 2 times I think we've been out there.
Awesome.
So it's they get pressured a lot out there, so I think sometimes they get turned off, and just finding the right pattern that they want. It's either trying to anchor up or trying to just cover water.
Yes.
When I'm out there by myself, I'm only running off of a trolling motor because it's a restricted motor lake. So I got a 40 on the back of mine, and it's a 9.9 restriction. So I've only got to use my trolling motor. So it takes me a while to get anywhere. So usually I find a quick hole and get to it, and then just sometimes if the wind's going to be permissible, I try to cover water a lot. And
sure.
Find the active fish.
Yes, sir. Understand that. Yeah, I'm hoping here soon to get out there before the spawn hits. I know we're starting to get in that pre-spawn mode. Been talking to a lot of folks that fish Mississippi River pretty hot and heavy. Mississippi is only about 15 minutes from where I reside, so a lot of folks fish it. We got about 4 or 5 trib streams that dump into it, and right at the mouth of tribs, usually pretty hot and heavy with folks fishing. Bank pole and trout lines really big around our area as well too. So I've been talking to some locals. They've been doing fairly well, and a lot of fish. Some of the guys are trophy fishermen. They'll throw the fish back, take pics, and then you got some that just like to have regular fish fries. And the folks that's been keeping the fish, they said that females have been pretty eggy, and they're getting pretty developed and starting to get that real bloody veins and stuff in it too. So it looks like they're getting pretty hiked up around our territory to start spawning. So I'd say within the next week or two, don't have any cold fronts or anything come through. It should be spawning time. So yes, sir.
Yeah, bad time for a fisherman. Everybody uses it, but
yes. Yeah.
But unfortunately, if it's when you can go, you still go.
That's right. You never know. You still got that opportunity. You might as well take it. Hey, even bad day fishing, still good day, if you're out there doing it.
Yeah,
that's why I look at it. So,
all right. Well, I think we gave about 5 minutes into here. So, if anything, just go ahead and give everybody your credentials here about what your background is here.
Yes, not a problem. Again, my name is Darrick Garner. I used to work for the Missouri Department of Conservation, 10 years full time on St. Joseph, Missouri. Worked in mitigation study, specifically looking at chutes and side channels that was created by the Corps of Engineers for MDC to go into to see what type of fish was utilizing that. I did a little side project when I did work with Missouri Department of Conservation. fishing. I was taking otoliths and also the pectoral spines off the fish and doing age growth just to see how fast these fish would grow. And my goodness, they do grow exponentially quickly. The first year of life, they can get up to 16 inches. When they get up that big, guys, everybody that's a sport fisherman out there, especially in the catfish world, know that a 16-inch bait, it's going to have to be a fairly large fish to take that. So with that said, a fish at 16 inches plus, they're going to continue to grow. Second year of their life, they typically become sexually mature, and then just throwing out the larger fishes between 25 to 30 pounds. They can lay up to 250,000 up to 500,000 eggs at a time. And depending on water conditions and the situation of the river, they can do that twice a year, and that's just one fish. So they grow fast, not much predation besides what we offer. That is not myself included. This is all the commercial fishing that do target these fish to get on the waterways. And the little guys, like I said, some of the other species will hit them like crappie and bass, but they grow so stinking fast because they're a pelagic feeder. What that means is they're continually in the water column all day just feeding. They're feeding on plankton. They're not a benthic feeder like your common carp. They don't feed on the bottom for like invertebrates and stuff. They're just in the water column specifically after your photoplankton, zooplankton, and stuff like that. So they compete a lot with our native species, which is like our paddlefish and our gizzard shad. So we've seen populations decrease in the past years from that with the start of the silver and bighead carp in our areas. In 2015, just going back to my work with MDC, I left and then went into the private sector, started commercial fishing myself. Was trying to find that niche and using some of the background that I was able to utilize when I worked for Missouri Department of Conservation. I thought, hey, this would be a good idea if I could find an avenue or a niche where I could sell these fish. It would be fairly lucrative. So I started talking with a lot of other folks that was out there, and we did find a couple of areas that was interested with the Asian carp, the silver and bigheads. And we started selling down to the crayfish fields in Louisiana, and then we started selling to the East Coast to the lobster and crab folks. They would cut them down to size and put them into their pods to utilize. So what we do is we'd go in areas, we would catch these fish or have other fishermen catch them and put them onto reefer trucks, 53 footers, freeze them down and ship them out. Well, as time continued to progress, that's when 2020 hit, and a lot of those contracts that we work with other state entities, even with ourselves, and contract with other fishermen started to come so null. We try to figure out what to do with these fish because I was sitting on a lot of fish in 2020. That's when we started to come to the fruition of making dark water premium baits, because we had so many fish sitting in our shop at that point in time. We're like, what do we do with these? We can't ship them out as a frozen good. We can't move them down to the crayfish fields. Nobody on the East Coast is buying right now. So we come up with an idea if we could brine these. And we talked to a couple other folks. I'm partnered with a gentleman at Kansas City. He had a great idea with a shelf stable product. We tried to figure out what could we do to do it. So we ended up talking with a few folks. I came up with an idea that I talked to some of the old school folks that used to jerkify meats and use the old brining method. And that was what we utilized to make these baits. So we started playing around with it in July of 2020. We had our first little run with them there. We hung some up in our shop, gave it out to a couple other folks to try out to fish with. And sure enough, worked out well. We found out the shelf stability would go up to a year with it. It did not break down, did not rot, and worked out really well. So
that's awesome.
Yes, sir.
So these Asian carp, how did we end up getting these things?
Awesome question. In the late 90s, we had some flooding issues that occurred down south. And again, I don't know the specific areas that this occurred at, but I know there's some hatcheries that's fairly close to the Mississippi River that was flooded. These fish were then introduced into the Mississippi River, which just is a perfect area for these things just to explode. So what they do is they've used them in these systems for water quality. So they would have the silver and bighead carp for water quality in the actual hatchery ponds itself. Well, once this is flooded, it got introduced into the river systems, and having an ecosystem that lush with food, they just exploded and started multiplying like rabbits. And then we see them in all the tribs around us. I'm stationed here in Missouri. We have Mississippi, the Missouri River, also over in Illinois River. We work with other state entities to collect their fish as well because there's such an abundance out there. And they do have a really detrimental effect on our native species around us too.
So since Darkwater catches all these Asian carp for their products now, how many fish do you guys catch within a year?
Excellent question, Dan. And again, it's just like anything, it's very seasonal. If we have cold water conditions, we can get abundance of fish. I mean, we can go from 40 up to 80,000 pounds in a week's time. And then once we get into warmer temperatures, similar to what it is here in the summertime, the catch rates start to drop. These fish start to become very elusive. They can see our nets. They'll jump over the nets. They'll just basically just stay away from our nets completely. But when we have colder temperatures, especially in behind those wing dikes and those deeper pools where you like to find those big blues and some of those flatheads in those cold months, silver and big head carp like those areas too. They'll congregate, stay in there for warmth and stuff, and then you can just send a trammel net through that or stage a couple gill nets in there and just knock the world out of them. But once the water temperature starts to warm up, these fish start to move as well. And as they continue to move, they spread out quite a bit. So the catch rates, you'll start seeing drop. You can still hit them pretty good. You can drive them like cattle into our nets, but even drive them, they'll start, like I said, warming up, and they'll jump over top our nets, and they're fairly elusive.
So you basically you net most of them. It's not like rod and reel kind of stuff.
No, sir. Yeah. Like I said, they're pelagic feeders, so they're a filter feeder.
Yeah.
So
okay. Yeah, that makes sense now.
Yes, sir.
When you say it like that, yeah.
Yes. Oh, no worries. But you do have folks that like to jig, or they'll be flipping out there and stuff, and you'll hook them. You'll foul. I can't say foul hook because you still catch them in the mouth, but you'll see them where they'll hook them on the side of the mouth. But typically, they're not there to eat the jig. They're there just as a filter feeder. So yes, sir.
Yeah, and we got Rustic out there. He says, "Hey to everybody."
Oh, hello. How's it going?
If you have any questions out there, please let us know, because we're here for.
But yeah, I've worked, like I said, that stint for 10 years. And then, like I said, I went to the private sector in 2015. And it took a little bit because there was a lot of pushback when folks hear silver and big head carp. Immediately they think of trash fish. Hey, you can't use that for anything. It's the best thing for these guys. Just throw them up on the banks. But honestly, they make really good baits. Table fare is not bad as well. You do have those Y bones that is just right on the top end of the fish itself. And if you cut it, like I like to tell folks, is like pulling back straps out of a deer. You get up above the Y bones, you can cut a really nice strip out of those fish. And honestly, it's not bad table fare. It's fairly white, flaky meat, and you can eat it. So it does have a lot of good benefits there. Like I said, for human consumption, it's great for bait, fresh. I love it for, like I said, for the shelf stable bait that we create and stuff with, because it works out really well. And like I tell folks, the bait we have, it might not be the number one bait, because I like live bait. It's still one of my preferences, but it is an excellent number two bait to utilize. Like I said, if you want something to throw in your bucket, your boat, just leave there for days on end in any weather conditions, hot or cold.
Yeah, because that's exactly what I do. Is I'll have a little bit of everything, and I'll throw that out there. And what's even funnier is I even have this pack here that I just took out of the freezer, mind you. And you're thinking, okay, well, been in the freezer, you're going to have to wait a couple hours for it to unthaw and everything. But no, I mean, this thing, I can take it out and just start cutting chunks out of it, even after being frozen. So that's cool. I mean,
that's one thing I try to throw out there to the folks. It does hold its rigidity. Like I said, it's one of those things you can leave it like you froze it. You can freeze it. You can put it in cold conditions. You can put it in hot conditions. You can leave it out in your truck, which I don't tell folks because it still has a fishy smell, but you can leave it in hot conditions, 110 degrees outside, and it's still going to be that same type of rigidity. It's still going to be good. It's not going to get soft on you like you have goldeneye or you have gizzard shad you leave out in the sun after it thaws out and stuff, how it gets real mushy. Yeah. This won't do that. It like I said, it holds really good, and it's got a good hook set on it. So yes, sir.
Here, we actually do have one question. It says during the summer, the Mississippi. And it's not a question. I thought it was a question. It said during the summer, the Mississippi is thick with Asian carp. I thought he was asking.
Yes, it is. Yes, and I agree with that comment. You said it perfect. They are thick. You can still catch a lot of the fish. I'm not saying you cannot, but they jump quite a bit. What I mean by the statements I had earlier, when it goes back to being cooler temperatures, they really bulb quite a bit in those deeper pools. If you find pools like 40 to 50 foot deep in behind your wing dikes or your L dikes, fantastic for us when we set our gill nets or trammel nets and just work it through. We can catch a higher volume of fish than, don't get me wrong, you can still catch a lot of fish in summer. You do, but our catch rates do drop because when they're all balled up like that, they're not moving as much. And then you can just drag through there and pull out thousands upon thousands of pounds versus when they're more elusive, like you said, in the summertime, they'll be jumping. You'll see a bunch of them. You'll still catch them, but you're going to have a lot of them that's going to go over top of your nets, going to go side of your nets and stuff as well. But yeah, there's a bunch.
What's the behavioral thing for the jumpiness of the fish? I mean, is there something?
The lateral line on the Yeah, the lateral line on the side of the fish, it's stimulated through sounds. There's been studies done with USGS, with other state entities, and again, just not throwing folks out there because I'm not with any of the state entities anymore. I'm on private sector, so I don't speak on the behalf anymore. But I do know there's been some acoustic testing that's been done with them that help drive these fish into nets, and it works really well. There's a lot of research being done with multitude of state entities around us. I know for a fact for the tri-state, that's Iowa and Illinois, Missouri here, there's a lot of work being done. So again, it takes everybody, guys, to work together on this. It takes commercial fishermen, it takes your state entities, it takes everybody just to collaborate together and just find just routes to get rid of them because there's so stinking many of them.
Now is the what are the consumer base the other fishermen besides for you guys? What do they usually do with those Asian carp? Then do they sell them?
Yes, there's protein plants that actually process them as well. And if we do have an abundance of fish and where our catch rates are fairly high, we'll do the same thing. We can take them to protein plants. There's fertilizer plants as well out there that do utilize these fish. I know there's folks in the lower states that do a lot of the fertilizer work as well. And then again, you have your big markets, like I was just stating earlier. You have some of the crayfish fields in the south, and you have your lobster and crab folks on the East Coast. Typically, they like to use Menhaden on the East Coast, which is one of their primaries. We just kind of slid in there with a couple other folks that are out there too that are big in the Asian carp markets. We ship it out there to them. It's just a lower cost bait they can purchase, and they can get a multitude of it because we have a ton here in the Midwest.
Yeah. And now have they spread all the way across the 50 states yet, or well, at least
There's
mainland?
Can't answer that. I'm not sure if it's in all 50 by no means, but I do know that they're doing a lot of work to keep them out of the Great Lakes. I don't know. Again, I don't speak on the state, for the states by no means. I don't know if anything's made up there. I know they're doing a lot of work with the Great Barrier up there and stuff to keep that. It's electrified field that tries to keep them back. And there's a lot more money that's going to be dropped into that to help deter those fish out of there as well. So that's a huge, their word once they get into, if they do, which I pray to God they do not, get into it, really mess up a huge fishery there in the Great Lakes. So I know there's a ton of work being done there.
There's a processing plant in, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Kentucky.
Yes. I believe that's aquatic protein. I think that's one of the processing plants there that do a lot of work. I believe they're also in Beardstown, Illinois as well. And yeah, they do great work. They take a lot of fish from the commercial fishermen as well. And thumbs up to all the commercial fishermen do it because, man, they put a lot of effort into getting these fish out and stuff, and they work their butts off. I mean, it's day in, day out kind of thing. I mean, we commercial fish as much as we possibly can as well, too. And it's some tedious work some days because you're in there in all types of weather and conditions and just to fight your way through to get these guys out of the water. But bad thing is I don't see an end in sight at this point. I really don't. There's not enough predation and work being done on it. So
here's the question. So what causes millions of them to die off in the spring?
And again, that could be a different water quality, guys. Depending on what area, algae blooms could be a cause of it, but there could be various issues there. Again, I don't want to answer that question because I'm not sure exactly what part it would be, but there is some areas that I do know on some of the different trib streams that's happened where there's just a big die off. A lot of your dissolved oxygen will drop if you have a huge algae bloom. Your dissolved oxygen drops, and then that kills off a lot of your fish in that area. So you'll see a bunch of dead floating carcasses coming down. So I know that is one of the big issues.
Yeah, I know sometimes our local lake, Buckeye Lake, sometimes they'll get a bad algae bloom.
Yes.
It's not a very deep lake and everything, so I mean it gets that quite a bit sometimes. But
you understand, again, it drops water quality down. Your dissolved oxygen, once it gets low, it can put the hurts on some fish, especially your larger fish. It's got more biomass for the oxygen to get into them. It zaps them, knocks them. So yeah, just
he says at the dams every spring there's a massive kill off.
Yes, what location are we at? Is this in Kentucky?
Yeah, where you? Which area you're talking there, Rustic?
No, but I've heard of other places. I've seen it a little bit up in Iowa.
Kentucky Dam.
Yeah. Yep, I've heard of a few because I've talked to a lot of the guys down around Kentucky. Because at first we were collecting fish from Kentucky to help make these baits because we were searching all over just to get a high volume of fish to start processing because we go through thousands of pounds in a week's time just to make baits. And I know there's a little bit on our Facebook page stuff kind of showing our process from the whole fish and totes to how we fillet the fish out, then the method that we utilize into our brining totes, and then to our packaging side. So we need high volumes of fish. So, yeah.
It's just more specifically the Barkley Dam.
Gotcha. I've heard of that. I haven't been around that area myself, but I've heard of those areas. I know there's a lot of guys down around the Kentucky area and stuff that do commercial fishing because they'll cruise up in Illinois rivers and fish it. They'll hit some of the Mississippi spots too, and I've come across some of those guys. So yep.
So
Awesome.
with the dark water, you got all these Asian carp now that you're using. Now,
Yeah.
how do you basically put this stuff together here? Because I mean, you don't just have one Asian carp bait. You've made different kinds of products off of this, not just
Yes.
one. I don't want to say flavor, but you know how
Sure.
you might want to put
Yes.
it that way. So what kind of stuff do you have?
Yes, we have a kind of the multitude of baits. We have our all our blood reds. We do a garlic infused. We also do a shad infused. With shad, we do the similar situation what we do with our silver and big head carp. We put it into a salt solution and extrapolate all the oils out of it. Once we have all the oils, we'll have just a straight shad oil base. We'll take all our fillets of our silver and big head carp and lay it in and let it set for 24 hours. So it really infuses that shad flavor. And then we'll cut them up to par. We'll make the chunks or we'll make the slabs. Typically have two variations. You can order them in the pound bag of your slabs, which Dan, I think that's what you had right there is some of the slabs on hand.
Yeah.
And then I apologize. I should have had some. Yep, that's our slabs. And then we have the pre-cut chunks. It's also a pound bag as well. And those typically about like a 2-inch by 2-inch. So it's just kind of a quick fix. If you want to put them on a hook, a lot of folks around our area, they like it because it's a prefab where they can throw it on their hook, do a lot of bank fishing stuff with it. Some of the other guys like the larger slabs that they can cut to their size because some folks like to use a little bit larger bait because they're after those big blue cats, and that's what they like. We do have strawberry infused. Same thing. We use a food grade strawberry syrup that we add to it. Everything we use is food grade, so we don't use anything that's off the table. Even with the brining method that we utilize, it's also everything is food grade as well.
That's awesome. So I wouldn't recommend it, but you can you said it's not for human consumption, then, so I can't cook this up.
No, I'd try to. I've joked with folks even at the Cat Con, man. We had a lot of people in and out, and we're just cussing, discussing, and we joke, say, "Hey, man, you got your crackers ready? Because here you go." But yes, we do have it on our package as well. That's not for human consumption by no means. It has went through a brining method. But again, that's definitely not for folks to eat. It's for bait. So yes, yeah. But we like to joke, so we like to just shoot the crap with folks and tell them, yeah, you got a bag of crackers. Hey, if you're not catching fish that day, you can eat your bait. So just kidding.
Oh, well, thanks for sharing this out there, Rustic. I appreciate that.
Yes.
We definitely just want to share the information out with these nasty carp that we'd like to get rid of, and of course,
yes.
Using them the best way we can possible, and that's for catching catfish. So
yes,
and of course, other things. We're your crab industry and anything like that, and we even talk about a possible way that you can use it, maybe for bass fishing later on. That it works out.
There's a multitude of things, and again, when we first started in the private sector, I began the business FKF Commercial Fisheries, and that's what we started with in 2016, and that's how we started dabbling a little bit with trying to find those markets, and that's how we started playing with the bait market with the crayfish fields and lobster and crab folks. And then 2020 is when everybody collaborated together and created the dark water, and we're still expanding. We're still looking for other markets out there because I know there's a lot of other folks out there in the same realm trying to find avenues with human consumption with them, other bait markets as well. And I still think there's a lot of niches out there that could be filled with this because we have an abundance of fish here in the Midwest. I mean, there is a lot of them in the streams. That's the thing I advocate to folks as well. If they land your boat, they make fantastic bait. Cut them up right there. Fresh bait's awesome as well too. Cut them up in good chunks, and typically they'll catch you some really good fish as well. So again, that's one main reason that we did this. One is from economic standpoint, we do want to make a little money off of this, but also we want to get them out of our streams, because I'm a fisherman at heart too. I hate when I go down the river, like some of the folks talking about earlier with the fish jumping in boats in summertime. I hate it when you're hitting those back streams and those trib streams and those fish are just jumping. You can get hit in the face, hit in the chest. Folks are getting just bounced all over the place on the boat with them.
Yeah.
So,
Rustic's saying here in New York, they charge up to $500 for a plate of Asian carp.
I'm definitely in the wrong market. It looks like I need to take this to the human consumption side. Holy cow, that is amazing. That's good that they're utilizing there. That's fantastic, guys. That is, wow. I'm highly impressed with that. But I could see that happen. Like I said, they're good table fare. Like I've told folks around here, going back to the same analogy that I was utilizing earlier, they have some really distinctive wide bones. You get above it, and it's like a backstrap you'd peel out of a deer. You cut it up. I like to cut them up in small scallop sizes and fry them up, and man, they're really good. Really good.
Has the word just not got out that they can actually eat these things? I mean, it seems like
there's
as many as abundant as they are, you figure some people would be, hey, screw me trying to catch a fish. I'll just net 5 of them and there's dinner for a week. I mean,
that's exactly. I know there's a lot of work in Illinois being done to push more of the human consumption side of it. They've even rebranded the name of the fish and get away from the Asian carp side of it to Copi, C-O-P-I.
Yeah.
It seems, just like I was saying earlier, when folks hear silver and big head carp, they think, oh man, that's not a desired fish. That's a trash fish. It's something that I don't want to eat. I don't want to utilize for bait. So they try to rebrand so it gives it a little bit more twist and stuff. So folks will advocate to try it, to eat it. And once you try it, like I said, it's not bad. It really isn't bad at all. And again, I like it because it makes really good bait as well. But yeah, it's not bad table fare.
I know I might be going out on a limb here, but I mean, if we can get these fish and anything like that, one place it'd probably be good to utilize it and everything would be homeless shelters.
Yes.
That'd be a perfect place for that.
Yes.
To get rid of them and feed people who need it.
Yeah, so, that's right. Hey, that's a great avenue to look into. That's no kidding, Dan, because there's, like I said, it's there's quite a few of them out there in the rivers, and man, that would be a great niche to fill. I can see that'd be beneficial. Something to get organized like that, that'd be awesome. That truly would. Because man, there's plenty to go around. My goodness.
All right, so I think you touched on it a little bit, but how long did you say that the shelf life on this stuff was?
Yes, going back to the dark water, the shelf life is up to a year. We've had it to go a little bit further than that, but I know a year's time it will stay good. They're in resealable packages. You can crack these open. You can leave them out in any element. You can leave them out in the cold or hot. It could be straight sunlight. The one thing I do warn folks is if it is in direct sunlight for like a full day or so, it might change just a little bit of color on you. It starts to get a little bit brown. Besides that, the tissue and everything still stays good. Rigidity, all the oil stays good and won't decomp on you, won't break down. Some folks like to freeze it just because, old habits are hard to beat. I do the same kind of thing. You can throw it in the freezer and it won't hurt it. But yeah, it stays good up to a year and you can leave it in any condition.
That's awesome. Yeah. Rustic here says, I tried cut carp and never caught anything using it. Got to keep trying, man. It'll happen.
Yes. And again, I understand that completely. There's a lot of folks that's done the same thing, had a little pushback at first utilizing it. And it's one of those things you continue to use and stuff. You will catch fish and stuff on it. But again, I know there's other baits out there that's going to work just as good or better. And I love my live bait. I like using live creek chub and bullhead, especially when I'm out there for the big dogs. But again, this is just good secondary bait. You continue to use, you should catch fish.
Yeah. Sometimes, especially if you can't net shad and you're having trouble finding it, and at least you have that in there, you can still fish with some kind of a fish instead of chicken as a secondary backup, or whatever else that you might frozen that you might have it maybe a little bit older than reaching its life expectancy. So
exactly. But yeah, that's kind of the one of the swings I like to throw to folks, because again, we test this when COVID hit. We had that whole duration just to see what would work, what wouldn't work, and we took it out having a lot of time on our hands and left it out in hot conditions in the summertime. Then once winter hit, we let it out in the cold just to see if there'd be any effects. We froze some of this stuff down to see if it changed consistency, because a lot of your fresh fish, once you freeze it, it kind of expands the tissue, it thaws out and turns to mush. Well, it didn't break down when we did that as well and stuff with it. So we let some of the guys try it out on the rivers. They caught some fish with it. Again, it wasn't one of those that it's going to catch you 100 fish and now it's the magic bait by no means, but it still was catching fish and it worked. And once we got that out there to the public and stuff, folks started catching fish and said, hey, this stuff works and it makes a really good backup bait.
Yeah. Yeah. Rusty says I catch a lot of skipjack, and that's what I use mostly.
Hard to beat. That's definitely one of them.
I don't have skipjack up here where I'm at. I'd have to probably go down the Ohio River in Mississippi to get any of that. So
yep, and that's what a lot of folks like to utilize around us. We have gizzard shad, skipjack, of course, in the Mississippi and stuff, and yeah, a lot of folks like to use that too. And again, if you're not catching those in one day, they'll start boating some of the fish jumping into your silver and big head carp, and they'll cut those up on bait. That's honestly, when we were first commercial fishing ourselves, we're kind of dabbling with everything. We had a couple of the silver carp jump in, and that's how we started to play around with the idea and stuff. Prior to 2020, we would have one jump in. We bait our trout lines up with it just to catch catfish and stuff with it as well, and it worked. We'd leave it out with 24 hours and come back that next morning and stuff and run them, and it worked pretty good for us for the Channel Cat and Blues. So yes, sir.
Yeah. Now we got Catfish Dog in here saying evening to everybody.
Awesome.
And saying MVO for life. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yes. Yes. That is great.
All right. Well, since we have some people in here, well, sit here and see if I can work this thing, since I don't do it that often here. And we'll show a little video here. Let's see if I can. Oh, yeah. Add this to the stage here. Of me actually using the Asian Carp spray.
For the Asian Carp piece, I am going to reactivate it with some of this Asian Carp spray that they gave me. Put some of the stuff back on it. All the oils and stuff. All right.
Oh,
so far, it's almost one apiece between the carp and the shad. Shit. And so far, the blue chicken is losing its deposit. A couple hits, but they've been dropping it. Whoa, I just threw that out there. And the Asian carp's already getting hit. Yeah, look at that. That's awesome. Oh, they dropped it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Man, oh, man.
He dropped it, but hey, I got a hit on there.
That's right. That was a good hit. And that's one thing Dana didn't talk much about. It's the spray. What we also do is we extrapolate the oil off the fish because they're such an oily fish as well. That's what that is. We sell basically the sprays itself. It comes in a 6-ounce bottle, and that's nothing but straight fish oil. So we extrapolate that off all our fish, and we have it in 55-gallon drums, and then we just put them in those small containers you've seen. We sell them online. We sell them to some of the retail stores that we deal with. So yes, sir.
All right. Rustic has a question here. Is carp better for fishing in the winter or summer?
Man, that's a good question because I've had folks catch on both ends. For here, we have some of the conservation lakes close to us. When ice first comes off, typically like late February, early March, some of the guys will use the cut carp and go up there and catch some really nice blue cats because there's some really good blue cat fisheries like in Honeywell Lake. That's conservation area fairly close to us here. It's about 30 minutes away, just north of Mark Twain Lake. They do really well in the cold months. And then summertime, it seems like they do fairly well with it on the rivers, the trib streams, because we've got a multitude of trib streams that dump up into the Mississippi River. It's fairly close to us here. there. We have North Fabby, South Fabby, North River, and folks do really well in the summertime as well. But again, your flatheads are becoming active too, and I know the flats prefer the live baits and stuff, and folks like to use live baits as well. But with the cut, they'll still catch your nice Challenge Cat and blues. Hopefully that answers.
But you have gotten flats off the carp then?
Yes. Yes, we have caught a few. We've got a few reviews from folks in the past that have caught flats on it. But again, one of the biggest promoters is the big blues and the Challenge Cat. The chunks that we got cut up, that's a lot of folks. Typically, I'll speak for here in Missouri and some of the folks that like to fish in the trib streams. They like the easy access where you can throw on a hook and just flip it and catch your Challenge Cat size, fiddler size up to a couple pounds, and that works really well. And then the slabs, kind of similar to what you got there, Dan, is what folks like to use for the big blues. But I don't try to promote it much on the flats because I know, being a fisherman, also ex-biologist and stuff too, your flats are going to really prefer that live bait or that really fresh cut live bait. I mean, they really tend to go towards it and stuff. But there's been instances folks have caught flats on it. So yes, sir.
Catfish dogs out here saying we have a huge Asian carp problem here in Illinois.
Amen. Amen. We work, like I said, with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. Well, we're stationed here in Missouri, and I work with them. We collect fish from them as well, just to make this bait. And yeah, that's very true. They're riddled in the Illinois River. Like I said, it's pretty bad in Missouri, Illinois, and Mississippi. I know we have them everywhere, but I know Illinois has them really bad. I know they're doing a lot of work with commercial fishermen there. The state's doing a lot of work with letting folks know awareness for human consumption to bait and everything. So all we can do, guys, is everybody continue to collaborate together as fishermen and all the states and stuff, and try to get them out as best we can.
And we got Marcy here. It works great for me in the wintertime for blues here in Nashville on the lake and river.
Yes. And that's kind of what I was going back to saying here too. As soon as the ice is off, it works really good for the big blues. And I like doing it myself. As soon as we know the ice are off some of the lakes, we'll take some nice cut and utilize it. I'm in Missouri. I just got to ask Rustic, how are you? What section of Missouri are you from? You from northern or southern? I'm stationed northeast Missouri. But yeah, going back to that, with the ice off, we'd like to fish some of the lakes up here.
He's just, they're talking to Maurice there.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, he hadn't said where he's at up there. And Catfish still dog saying, yep, Commissioner Fisherman here. So
awesome.
All right. There he is. He's New Madrid.
Gotcha. Awesome. Yeah, I know where that's at. Yeah, getting down around the Cape area and stuff. Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of Asian carp around that territory too. I know they're doing a lot of work with MDC and stuff down there as well. It's Mississippi River is just they're there. They're there to stay. I hate to say it, but
yeah. Now I know we've got the problem. Are we even making a bullhead, a foothold at least in the process of doing what we're doing with it?
Talking with some folks that's done a lot of the work and especially like the mid to northern regions on the Illinois River, there has been some good impacts done on some of the pools that they can see a decrease. I know DNR in the past couple of years, they took out close to like 750,000 pounds just in December. So they were doing some huge efforts there. They had a multitude of vendors coming in to collect fish and stuff from them. I've heard that through the grapevine. So there's been a lot of work done, a lot of fish being moved out of those areas, but it's hard to fathom, just wrap your head around 750,000 pounds of fish being pulled out. It's crazy. But like I said, they're still in those pools, but there is some decrease, I believe, the population from that work. And it's good stuff that they're doing. Hopefully we can continue to work that out. I know there's incentive programs out there for the commercial fishermen as well to help, be an advocate to bring more folks into this avenue to help move these fish out. And again, just trying to find more niches like this, like us creating this bait. That's one small niche, folks doing the human consumption as well, just to keep advocating to get these fish out of the water. So yes, sir. Yeah,
Catfish Dog saying he is very worried about the Lake Michigan with the Asian carp invasion.
Yeah, I know a lot of work being done, and going back to what I was saying earlier with the Great Barrier, the electrified barrier they have up there, it's hopefully being a detour for it. I know there's more money that's going to be poured into that project as well, and hopefully they can continue doing that. And again, the incentive program with the commercial fishermen to get them out of the waters. And again, we're trying to do our part too. We work with folks over on the Illinois River as well. We do our part on the Mississippi, and just hammer them down. Like I said, predation wise, they grow so stinking fast. There's not a lot of predation that can be hammering them down unless it's a monster catfish. And then that second year of life, they're pushing into sexual maturity, and then they start laying eggs. And just quoting, like I said earlier,
And how many you say they lay at a time?
now, a 25 pound up to 30 pound fish can lay up to 250,000 up to half million eggs at a time, and depending on weather conditions and everything suitable with water temperatures, turbidity, everything else. They can do that twice a year. But just one fish can drop that many eggs. That's pretty scary, because that's a lot of darn fish, a lot of recruitment that's out there. And man, it's hard to keep that in check. So
yeah, that's crazy. So you're saying that they're actually trying to use electric fencing to try to deter them from going through. Is that like a wild scale thing, or is that just one place? Or I mean,
and again, that's I don't speak on behalf of the states. It's just common knowledge, is talking to other fishermen, talking with some of the other biologist stuff in the past. But yeah, they do have that installed, and I know there's more money that's going to be allocated towards that to help prevent. But again, I don't speak on their behalf by no means, but I know it's there installed to help deter for it. And I know they're going to continue to elaborate that even further. And I know there's other incentive programs, again, going back to that as well, to continue to have commercial fishermen out there trying to hammer them down to move them. So it's great that we have the protein plants out there, and we have other buyers, even with us as yourselves and stuff, trying to get the fish in, to utilize them in for bait purposes, fertilizer purposes, even for the food consumers as well. So
that's crazy.
Awesome.
Let's see. Yeah. So no one. It's supposed to be nets for carp down here. So where Rustic is, nobody actually down there trying to get rid of those carp.
Oh my, gotcha. Well, hopefully there's some folks that try, because I know down in those areas it's pretty riddled too. It's been a few years back. Again, I worked for the conservation department for 10 years, and I've had a couple meeting stuff in the past when I did work for MDC around that area, and I know there's fish in those reaches. And I'm stationed here in northeast Missouri, and it runs all the way up to Iowa. We're in pools 19, 20, and 21 in Mississippi, and we have abundance of those there. I'm close to Hannibal, Missouri, and that's down by Pool 22 as well, and that's below the Severton Dam, and there's a ton of fish there too as well.
Yeah, we got Ben Wall Fishing Outdoors in here this evening, saying hi to everybody. Evening, ladies.
Hello. But yeah, like I said, hopefully one of these days we'll see a decrease in all these fish. But as of right now, it's a mainstay. And just like one of the folks commented earlier and stuff, for summertime, it's not uncommon to go out there and just hit, a side channel or a chute or a backwater, and those fish just start popping like popcorn.
Yeah, Catfish Dog says, not a fan of the barrier power outage. Very, very bad. Would be very bad.
Ooh. That would be really bad. Again, I know there's a lot of work trying to deter them from the Great Lakes, because I know that's an amazing fishery up there. And man, if it got there, I know it'd be detrimental.
Yeah, I mean, last I heard, of course, it's been a while since I've heard, because I've never fished Erie, which is the one I have here. I heard like Erie got those zebra mussels really bad. I thought they did a lot of things to try to combat that. Now, that's been years ago. I don't know if they've ever done anything with that, but I mean, that was just another lovely invasive species. I heard that was there was a big name back a couple of years ago, at least. I don't know how bad it still is or not, but
that's a good question. I know there's a lot of awareness still around here for checking your boats, check your outboards, and from one body water to the next and stuff, to do kind of a screening and everything. I know we still have them around, and they were pretty rough also on the native species, because they attach themselves on our native mussels and basically kill them out. So they're not good either.
Yeah, Rustic says they fish for net a lot of buffalo down where he's at.
Hey, buffalo, great eating. That's good table fare as well. I love it scored. Buffalo's really good.
I've never caught one. I've never used it for bait before. So yeah, I've heard people use them for bait as well. So
yes, I heard it's again another good bait for catching big blues and stuff as well. But yeah, when I was doing more of the commercial fishing for the human consumption, we did some of the catfish stuff at first, and then we moved to Asian Carp, and then we got away from selling catfish and flesh and stuff like that. But we would sell common carp and also smallmouth buffalo for human consumption. And man, it was really good. We had a scoring machine. We'd score it up flat and then score it in small sections. Pretty good.
Yeah, Terry B's out there saying hey to everybody.
Hello. But yeah,
does anybody else have any questions out there for about Asian carp or the dark water premium bait stuff, please put it in the comments. That way we can cover everything that we can possibly cover here tonight.
Yes.
Appreciate everybody stopping in here this evening, because and appreciate Darrick here spending his evening here with us.
No, it's fantastic. Love talking, like I said, about the silver and big head carp, and just kind of getting the awareness out there, which most folks, I got a feeling, on here know a lot about the carp and what they're like in their reaches of rivers and streams. But yeah, that's kind of the primary objective for us, was trying to get them out of our waterways. And man, oh man, they're here to stay. It's just one of those bad things to see. I started working as a temp in high school. I graduated high school in 1997. We didn't see a whole lot of the silver big head carp, special silvers that jump. But in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, started seeing a few, like 2001 and then in 2002. Once I got finished with college and stuff, it just seemed like they just started taking over. 2004 and 2005, a lot of the reaches that we're working, they were just everywhere. So it was amazing to see how fast they just exploded, especially in these are just pools that I was used to and stuff. Again, they were already there, but it seemed like the recruitment was just amazing. I mean, it just wouldn't be uncommon for you to go out there and have 5 or 6 of them laying in your boat. You'd see hundreds of them, but you'd still have like 5 or 6 that's going to come in with you. So,
geez, that's crazy.
Craziness, yeah. And then, like I said, that's how we started playing around with the whole bait ideas and stuff, cutting them up and using them for riding real bait. And then when I started commercial fishing, we threw them on trout lines and found out that, hey, they're working pretty good for channels and smaller blues at that time, because we'd cut them in really small chunks and put them on like a 6/0 hook, and did fairly well.
Well, the thing is, it's at least get the awareness out there within the whole community and have us all work together.
Yes.
I mean, even if it's just, once a fishing trip or something like that, if you happen to net one, keep it and cut it up and use it. I mean, it might be just one fish, but it's one more fish out of the water that we don't have to worry about. So
that's right. And we did some work just recently. There's some folks close to us here. We collected from a bow fishing tournament over the weekend. It was down in Ted Shanks Conservation Area. Just kind of giving a shout out there to Dean's Outdoors. They put together a really good program, and we collected all their fish. And the same thing there. I was talking with them, just doing the awareness, get the fish out of the water. And a lot of folks are starting to ramp up more and more with bow fishing, and that's a good thing. I know there's a lot of folks down in Kentucky do it as well, because I've heard about some of the bow fishing tournaments they had there too. And they put the hammer down, and I think they roughly got a little over 2,000 pounds over the weekend. So we collected that from them and processed them up into dark water baits.
Yeah, Catfish Dog says, my favorite walleye in Striper Dam is now overrun with Asian carp and totally ruined.
Ooh, man, I hate hearing that. But I completely understand. A lot of my good catfishing holes, like I was saying, in the early 90s to mid 90s, they're a really good spot now for silver and big head carp. You go out there and they're jumping. Don't get me wrong, still catch some nice channel and blue cats out of those spots, but it's just not the same as it was prior. I have seen a huge change, like I said, from the early 90s to now.
Oh, cool. Has anybody got anything else that they want to comment about?
Yeah, feel free to ask anything. Again, we've been working with dark water premium baits. Like I said, created it in 2020, got it out on the shelves in 21 and into folks' hands, and just getting it out there to as many fishermen as possible. We've had it used in southern states and different lakes and streams. It's worked fairly well. Again,
do you have any new product coming out that you can talk about, a flavor or anything?
Just as of right now, we were pushing the watermelon flavor that came out. We just introduced it during the Catfish Conference there in Louisville in this past February. That's one of the newest, latest, and greatest. Again, rehashing with some, I don't know if we got some new folks that's on or not. The garlics, we have garlic, we have the red blood garlic, strawberry infused. We have our natural, our shad infused, and now we have the watermelon as a selection as well. Yeah. And you can see that on our Shopify site.
A question with
yes,
the red blood. Now, is that the actual blood? Is it just dye? I mean, I'm just
no, we're using a food grade dye with some of the blood that's already been through the brining process. We have more of the oil on it and stuff too. But yes, everything, again, going back to that too, if we have some new listeners, is everything we use is food grade for the preparation of those baits.
Yeah, so nothing too chemically that's going to break down the fish or anything. So
yes, try to keep everything safe for the individual using it and for the waterways as well.
That's what we got to look out for. See if anybody's going to come up with any other questions here or comments. Appreciate everybody stopping in here. We got 5 great people in here wanting
Great.
to see what we're learning about today.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. This is great.
All right. Well, since I don't think we're going to have any more comments, I think we've covered a good amount of information today, at least,
Yes.
for the lifing cycle of the Asian. How long do these Asian carp live? Let's put that out there.
They can live up to 25 plus years. I mean, they can get fairly large. What's really neat is different pools that we collect fish from. Like in pool 19 specifically, we see fish, silver carp, especially between 25 up to 35, 40 pounds, which is just a monstrosity. The silver carp are the one that typically jump in your boat. The big head is what I call jokingly is like the close cousin. They're not the ones that jump, but they have more of that darker looking pattern to them. The eye is actually a little bit lower and stuff on the head itself. The big head, they do not jump. They can get up to 80, 90, up to 100 plus pounds. So these fish, they stick around for a good while and they just like to reproduce. So yeah, the age expectancy can be 25 plus years for sure.
Yeah, Catfish Dog says, thanks for the show. # down with Asian carp.
Yes, right on. I agree with that 100%. Down with Asian carp.
Let's make that trending. Down with Asian carp.
Yes, I like it. I like that's a good slogan. Down with Asian carp. Heck yes, that is the truth. Get them out of the waterways, guys. Get them out of the waterways. But no, it's yeah. Oh, and just kind of going back to the talk with the pools. Pool 19, we see larger fish, and as you come down a little bit further on the different pools like 20 and 21 and 22, you see a lot smaller and more of the silver carp. So it's almost like they're competing for those areas of food. So they have more abundance of food in those upper reaches. So you have your larger fish, whereas there's more competition, more fish in some of the lower reaches. And you see a multitude of those fish in that 5 to 8 pound range versus the ones that are that 25 up to 30 pound range too. Just a little tidbit there.
That's cool. Yeah, Catfish Dog says the DNR has strange rules for them here. I'd be very interested to see what those rules would be, because if they're that bad, why would you have rules against them?
I know with us at first, with working with different states and stuff, there's a couple of northern states that can't throw back, can't toss them back. Yeah, I've heard that. I know some red tape with some of those regulations like that too. You can't throw them back for sure. You can't leave them on the bank and stuff. And they try to promote it where you cut them up. And there's, I can't remember specifically if it was Minnesota or Wisconsin. We had a lot of red tape to go through just to send package baits, even because it's invasive. They didn't want anything to do with the fish, period. So we had to do a lot of talk with their state organization stuff too, just to get our baits into some of those states, because they didn't even want to mess with them, even in a package, just worrying that they're an invasive. After being processed, they still didn't want them. So we had to do a lot of cussing, discussing, and get that pushed through for sure.
Yeah, it's almost like a disease. They didn't want them to mess anything with it. They didn't want to touch it.
That's it. And that's one of the kind of regs we have here in Missouri as well, is you can't transport them alive. They can't keep them in, bodied water and stuff or aged or anything to them. So everything that we transfer, of course, is dead. We have in our totes, no water and everything. And we'll typically either freeze them or have them in our gooseneck trails. That's one thing I didn't really talk much about on how we transport our fish. We have a couple gooseneck trailers attached to our trucks. Then we have a 53-foot reefer. Then we have a box reefer truck as well. We'll go on sites and we'll just collect a multitude of these fish if we're working with the state entities. Even for us, we'll take one of our gooseneck trucks and trailers and drop it off on the actual boat ramp area, which is out everybody's way. Then we'll go out and fish. We'll bring them back in just with a couple sachets, depending on how many fish we're catching, load up onto our trucks, and then take back to the shop for processing. We have a little 10-acre plot there in rural Missouri, because you guys know how well these fish can smell and stuff. Once they're cut and gutted, they have a pretty good tendency. We're almost like a hog farm. We have to be away from public eye and smell, because you can smell us a mile away for sure.
Yeah. I've grown up a farmer and, had a hog and cattle farm, and the neighbors know when we clean out the barns and stuff. So I totally
exactly
understand that one. So
Yes, sir.
We'll
You
clean out
bet
your
it.
sinuses quicker than anything, though.
Oh my gosh, it will. Yes, that's the truth. You step in the back of one of those trucks on a nice warm day. My goodness, you can definitely smell them. That first kind of waft hits you, and you're like, yep, we're dealing with fish today, folks.
This catfish dog says that could give them a false DNA reading in the water.
Oh, gotcha. Transporting the fish. That's one thing that we also had talks with too. If they're using the cut bait and stuff, because there's some studies done with USGS about some of the DNA work, and that's one of the kind of the problematic that was brought up with shipping bait fish out to other entities and stuff, with kind of that DNA reading that could be thrown out there with other fish ingesting that and stuff and then throwing it off. So, but again, I haven't heard much more about it since our first talks, and that was early, I think 2021 when I was talking to those folks.
That's awesome.
But yeah, this is great. I like the questions and input. This is awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate all the questions. Catfish Dog and Rustics, who's been out here help feed the our little live here tonight. But I think we have covered a bunch, and we are right here around 10 o'clock. So I don't.
Awesome. Yes.
And your 9 o'clock.
Yes, Dan, again, apologies for that, man. I completely slipped my mind up. Like, we're in two different time zones, and yeah, it looks like behind me, I just see my face there. I'm starting to lose some of the lighting in behind. I'm out here on the old back porch, and the old Copeland gray tree frogs, they're really talking as well. I can hear them off the side there. So
if anybody doesn't know, a little funny story here. So I set this up for 8 o'clock, and I'm sitting here getting ready for him to show up here, and I'm like, after 8, I'm like, okay, he thinks it's his 8 o'clock, not my 8 o'clock. So I had to reschedule it for 9. So hopefully nobody missed out on anything here. But
my fault. Apologies for everybody out there tuning in. Yes,
when you're dealing with cross country kind of stuff, this stuff is bound to happen. But it's fun no matter what. And I mean, we had a great. I think we had a great show tonight. A lot of good people coming in here. Asking questions and sharing their comments of what they've seen out in their world of fishing with the Asian carp. And Darrick, I appreciate you spending your evening with us here and giving us some much needed info about the life cycle of the Asian carp, and how many eggs they can drop is just crazy. No wonder they are such a problem. And then dropping some information about dark water premium baits, guys. If you want a good secondary bait, go check them out. The link is in the description. It's scrolling down at the bottom here. If anything, check them out, and give them a try.
Yes.
I mean, that's exactly what I did at CatCon. I was like, you know what? It's because I knew these things were bad Momo Jomo. So I was like, hey, I'll give them a try because I need something more than chicken. And let's face it, I suck at netting shad.
I'm with you. I understand. Yes.
And you know, I wanted something else other than bluegill and shad. You know, since I usually cut them up. Sounds like something a little bit different. You know, because sometimes you got to throw that whole refrigerator and grocery cart at them to see what they want that day. So
that's right. Exactly. Yes. But Dan, I appreciate you having me on. This has been fantastic.
Problem.
Appreciate all the comments and questions too. This has been great.
Once we're out of here, I'll end the show. We'll be backstage so we can chat a little bit before we let everything out.
Okay.
But everybody else, hey, I appreciate you guys all stopping by today. If you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the comment section after this. I can always reach out to Darrick here and see if we can get some answers down there. And I'm sure he has an email address on his website. You can always email him directly any questions, or concerns, or anything that you want to do to help out the problem. And if anything, we'll see you guys back out on the water. Night, everybody.